Welcome to Sew with Mrs. Herbert. In our previous episode, we pinned our pattern onto our fabric and cut it out. Now we're ready, in episode 10, to transfer the markings from the pattern onto the fabric. Notice that I have piece 8, the fabric is folded in half so that I was able to cut both sides at the same time. Now I'm going to transfer the markings of these large matching dots for the size I'm I'm going to use tailor tacks. So I'm looking for an extra large. So I'll do a tailor tack here, here, here. Notice I'm skipping that one. I'm going here. So I'll do all those in tailor tacks. Now these in this row, they're actually for the pocket placement. And so pocket placement ones, I want to use a different marking system. So know that I'm not forgetting this, but I'm skipping it on purpose. Let's review how to make a tailor tack. First, we use our pin and we actually tear the paper a little bit. Then I've threaded my needle with a contrasting thread so that you can see it. I would normally use the color thread that matches the fabric. So I make a little stitch through both layers. Let me check. Yep, there's the needle. So it went through both layers. I pull that out. Not quite all the way. Now in the textbooks it'll say leave an inch tail. I like an inch. I can hang on to it easier and I don't never lose it that way. So now I make a second stitch in that same dot, pull it through, hang on to my tail, make sure my loop doesn't get any smaller than I need it. So again, they usually say a ½ inch, but I like an inch. So when you're learning from me, you're learning the way I like to do it best. So I cut it. Now I have this loop with 2 tails. I pull off my pattern. I pull apart the 2 pieces of fabric. And then I cut it in the middle. Now I have some little fuzzies here and straight stitches on the outside. So we know right side has a straight stitch, wrong side has the fuzzy tails. So there's the first tailor tack. I'm going to continue to do that all around the outside of my apron, piece 8. You will notice that I'm making my stitches parallel to my seam. I've completed the tailor tacks around the perimeter of this apron. Now I need to mark the matching dots for our pockets. Some of the dots are over on the left side and there's no fabric there. So to solve that problem, I unpin this, lay the fabric flat, and then repin it. So now I can address the dots that deal with the pocket placement. You'll notice that this chef's apron has 3 pockets. There's one here at the top. There's a smaller one right here. And then the one across the front actually covers up part of this one. So that's what all these next dots are about. Here's an extra large and an extra large for the top corners of the top pocket. And then extra large, top corner of the second pocket. And then we use tailor tacks on the sides for the large pocket that goes across. And remember we had our apron folded in half and we tailor tacked? So I'll just show you. We have the tailor tacks on both the right and the left side of our apron. So we're all set except for these dots matching the pockets. And this is where in a previous episode I talked to you about getting a different kind of marking pen. This is the one I chose. And I also mentioned taking a picture of the information on the back with your pen so that you can refer to it in the future. So this one tells me that I should be able to remove the marking with water. So I tested that, and actually this one, it's dry. I marked a little line on it. I put water on it, and it's been dry. But let me show you how I did that. I had to know it was okay for my fabric before I showed you. So I just drew a line. I'm going to see if you can see it's a blue line on top of my purple fabric. It may not show up well, but it's there. And I'm just taking a piece of what I use for a breastcloth, and I'm getting it wet. I'm going to move it off my pattern so that I don't get that wet. And then I'm wiping it. Sorry, you can't see. There. So I'm wiping that blue line off of the purple. And what we'll find then, since I've already tested it, when it dries, the blue line will be gone. So this pen is a great pen for marking, or excuse me, making my pocket markings. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start at the top and work down. So I'm going to poke a pin through matching dot. And then I'm going to poke a pin through the next matching dot. Then I'm going to lift up my pattern. And where my pins are, that's where I need to mark a blue dot. And again, in filming, you may not be able to see, but I am making a little blue mark on my purple fabric. So those dots are marked. So now I'll go down the next pocket. Here's extra large and extra large, so I'll do the same thing. Poke a pin in the center of the dot, the center of this one. Take the pins out around the pattern so I can get to that. Hold it down, and there. I'm going to mark where the pin is sticking through the fabric, and right there. So those are the top corners of my second pocket. All right, as I've already mentioned, we did tailor tacks here and here on each side that already will mark the position for the larger pocket. So piece 8 has everything marked that it needs. I'm going to move this aside and we'll go to the smaller pieces. We'll decide, do we need a marker or do we need a tailor tack? So let me move that. Now this piece is the drawstring. It goes from the sides around the neck, or they call it the tie. Okay. And the only line it has is right down the center. And that tells us, it says right here, fold line. We don't need to mark that because once we fold this in half, we'll know where the fold is. So that one's all set. This one does say center back. Just tells us here's our notch. We'll have a seam 5/8 inch right there. So that one's ready. Now this is folded in half. This says center front. So when we do tailor tacks or any marking here, it would show through on both sides. So deep breath. Oh, what do we do? Well, this mark and this mark, they're both tailor tacks on our apron. So I'm going to do those tailor tacks as well. Then this little dot says stitch line from here to here. So this will be top stitched on your pocket. So this will be marked with my marking pen. All right, I'll go ahead and do the tailor tacks and then we'll address the marking pen. So I'll do these tailor tacks. This is fold line. So I look to see, I'm going to go ahead and tear the paper this way. That will show me where I fold a little top hem. Okay, this fold line, we've got it marked here. When we mark it here, basically we'll have enough to be able to know where to fold it straight. So I'm not going to mark along here, that I won't need to. But I need to mark this dot and this, and then make a line so I know where to top stitch. And I need to do that on, show you when I undo this, on this side and on this side. So just as before, we'll poke a pin through the dot, poke one through this dot. And just to make sure that I put my ruler straight, I'm going to maybe divide it into 4. So I'll put another pin. You could just put one in the middle if you wanted. But now when I fold this, actually I have to turn it over. See where all those pins are? So I'm marking a little dot. I'll come back and draw a line. I turned it over. I'll mark a dot. All right, now I can pull this off. Take those pins out, easier. All right. I'll open this. You can see this is a wide pocket, isn't it? It goes all across the front of your apron. But I need to be able to top stitch from here to here. So I'm going to use my straight side of my seam gauge. If you have a ruler, use that. Draw a line. And I can scoot that down. Match up the dot down here. And draw my line. I'll do the same thing here. So now I've marked the top stitching lines for my pocket. Let's look at the next piece. I am going to just pin this piece back on with one pin just to keep them together until I'm ready to sew with it. All right, I'll put my cap back on so it doesn't dry out while I look to see what's next. All right, this is single layer and it says fold line. You see upper pocket. And actually I went ahead of time and I used, it's a tailor tack, but I just went one stitch and it's already clipped. What I could just do the little marking dots with my marker, but anyway, I marked this for you in a real simple way. And I believe I did some marking on these already. Here's the front of the pocket. We've got some lines that we need to mark, so I have not done that. But I did mark tailor tacks. So let's show you these lines then. Do you remember what we did? Poke a pin at the top dot and the one at the bottom. And then this one is a shorter line. I'll put a pin in the center. And the right side is facing up, so I need to this. Okay, I'll draw a line there to there. All right, that's a top stitching line. It also shows one over here, so we'll repeat that process. I always ask, are you having fun? All of this is fun to me. There we go. So now both of our top stitching lines for this little pocket are ready. Put a pin back on that with the pattern piece on it. And now one more piece. Let's check out this. It's the facing for the arm. So we've got a dot that I already tailor tacked, and I tailor tacked this dot. There's nothing else to mark on this. So our marking is complete. We'll get out the pattern guide sheet and see how to start making the pockets. In our next episode, we'll look at our pattern guide sheet to read how to start sewing the pockets.